Greenlight Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time podcast. We're here today to break down week 2 of the college football season. After creating some movie magic, we're here to get into the actual games. Are you ready to into week 2?
Yeah, I'm excited. At first glance, this week, this seemed kind of bland, but I managed to find a lot of action that I like.
Yeah, I got a lot of picks this week. The matchups aren't quite as I'd say as TV friendly as last week, but I think there are definitely some good games to get into here. So should be a fun week to break down, and that's what we'll do. We'll get into our top games of the week in week 2. Let's start out early on the side of things. Illinois versus Virginia here. Virginia had a big win versus William and Mary, 43-0. Illinois coming off a tough loss to UT San Antonio.
My Roadrunners.
I don't think any of us were too shocked about that one.
No, wish I had taken that one.
Yeah. This one comes in, Virginia a 10-point favorite. Over under sits at 55. This one, you think Virginia blows this one out? Does Illinois get on the road? They've shown a little offense of late, even versus UT San Antonio, but they haven't shown the ability to defend. How do you think this matchup breaks down?
No, I think Virginia's offense is going to overpower Illinois here. I think they've got both the passing game and the run game. Brennan Armstrong's playing really good. And I just think Illinois in both games, even if they're, they gave up some yards to Nebraska, but after that performance last week, UTSA has a good offense, but I think Virginia's is even better. And this one's at Virginia. So I like Virginia here.
Yeah, I think Virginia probably rolls in this one pretty easy. It's an interesting matchup to see where Illinois really is, to see where Virginia really is. If maybe they can, truly be a contender out of this ACC. I think we saw a little bit of glimpses of maybe some cracks in Clemson. So is Virginia a true contender in here, or are they still sort of, the 6, 7, 8 win team that they usually are? This will be a good little early, I wouldn't say test, but a good, they need to win it, and they probably need to win it pretty big for us to, sort of take Virginia seriously.
Yeah, I think they could very well win this and still be the Virginia of old. I think they could win this and still be a, 6 to 8 win team. But I think they're a much better team than Illinois. I think Illinois got the benefit of playing a very bad Nebraska team in week 1, and their true colors showed a little bit last week, and I think they're just going to keep sliding from there.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, we'll probably move to the marquee game of the week here.
Yep.
Oregon, Ohio State. This lost a little bit of luster with Thibodeau out, probably on the defensive end. They haven't officially ruled him out, but he's probably not going to play. That's a tough one to lose. That guy's a real game changer and game breaker. I fancy Oregon's chances a whole lot more if he was playing in this game to sort of wreak havoc on the backfield there. You saw Stroud a little bit shaky, not too shaky in that Minnesota game, but I think if you could get immense pressure on him, you'd have a better chance of creating turnovers and keeping this Ohio State offense out of the big plays here. But this matchup's still a pretty good matchup here. What do you make of Oregon, Ohio State?
I think Oregon was caught looking ahead a little bit last week, and whereas Ohio State's offense looked really good, I think their defense is full of holes, and Oregon may be able to capitalize on some of that. I think things could be going looking up for Oregon if they can put together some long drives, keep Ohio State off the field, and just prevent the big plays, which Oregon's defense may be fast enough, but you're right, losing Thibodeau is a huge blow to the defense. Yeah.
Do you think this game's going to be a high-scoring one? The over-under on it sits at 62.5. That's pretty high for I'd say a top, 10 matchup of two teams here. Or do you think it'll probably be played more Oregon style and maybe in the 20s, maybe stretch a little bit into the 30s?
I think Ohio State would want this over to hit.
Yeah.
Because I think if it plays into an offensive type game, Ohio State's going to dominate. But if Oregon can make this game ugly, which is I think is their game plan, it'll definitely hit that under. I'm not taking the over or under on here, but I think that's what each team's going to be wanting. Is Ohio State wants to shoot out, Oregon wants to grind it out.
Yeah, how times have changed.
Yeah,
I can think of some old school early 2000s Ohio State teams who you'd be lucky if they ran 20 plays in a season, and Oregon was trying to run 100 plays in a game. So things have flipped a little bit. Interesting game. I'm really intrigued. The spread sits pretty high. I think over 2 scores. A little bit intriguing there for Oregon. I just don't know really how the effect of Thibodeau missing the game is really going to affect this. But I give Oregon definitely a shot here if they can get better quarterback play. I thought their quarterback play was pedestrian, be nice in their opening game, whereas I thought Ohio State, found their rhythm there and hit the big play. So really going to be who can get their sort of style of play in this one. But a really good game. I don't think the 12 o'clock start time does Oregon any favors. So, all right, we'll move on to the next game of the slate that we're going to break down here. South Carolina and East Carolina. South Carolina popped out of the gates and really put a whooping on somebody. I think we were a little bit shocked there, even if it was, a not great Eastern Illinois team. But I think we thought this team might be really battling Vanderbilt for the worst team in the SEC. And Vanderbilt said, you don't. And ended up blowing a game to ETSU, who hasn't even had a football program all that long. So what do you make of South Carolina here? East Carolina didn't look great versus Appy State, but Appy State's really a good team, so probably didn't expect them to look too great. But interesting matchup. South Carolina goes to East Carolina here. So what do you got on this one?
I think East Carolina played a much better week 1 matchup for sure. So I think they're going to be tuned up a little bit more. South Carolina just needed a confidence boost, and I think that's what they got last week. So maybe they come in rolling in with some confidence, but I'm not favoring South Carolina too much here.
Yeah, I was sort of impressed with South Carolina. I think they maybe can sort of battle in that mix of not awful, but bad teams in the SEC East, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee. I think South Carolina probably threw their hat in the ring there. They did what Missouri and Tennessee couldn't do and beat up on a weak team. So, they showed they can do that. This is a little bit of step up in competition. We'll really see how they go here, especially on the road. But I kind of like South Carolina here. Yeah. So we'll see how they do in their second game of the season, or if they sort of drop back down to where we thought they would be in preseason. But, I'm willing to admit they played much better than I thought they would, both offensively and defensively. We'll see if it's just because Eastern Illinois is really, really poor. All right. Speaking of bad teams in the SEC.
Hey now.
Fine. Good teams in the SEC. Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. Pittsburgh traveling to Knoxville to play this one. 3.5 points for Pittsburgh. Not a lot of teams outside the conference come in there favored on the road, but really interesting sort of game for Pittsburgh here. They had a pretty easy matchup in their first one versus UMass, 51-7. Tennessee had a pretty easy one in their opener, 38-6. I thought, it was a bit of a slow game, certainly in the first half. Mm-hmm. They found their running game in the second half, or I should say they used their running game in the second half more than they found it. But what do you make of this matchup here?
I think Tennessee is going to have to play better in the passing game for sure. Didn't look that great against Bowling Green, but it wasn't really necessary. But I think this Pittsburgh, it's not really a defense that's really going to get after you, but I don't think you're going to be able to run the ball against Pittsburgh like you were against Bowling Green. And Pittsburgh's coming in with confidence. Their coach is talking a lot of smack about Neyland and how they're not intimidated. So I really can't get a good read on this game. I almost want to take Tennessee in the points, but I'm just not too sure. It could be a blowout on either side, honestly. But I definitely need to see a lot more from Joe Milton.
Yeah. I can't get a good read on this game either. It's just, I don't expect Pittsburgh to go into, not necessarily good stadiums, but, this team is Tennessee is not a good football team, but for them to go get a road win, it's just not something they've done probably since Dorsett and Dan Marino were hovering around there. I mean, they couldn't even do it when Fitzgerald and Antonio Bryant and Curtis Martin were hovering around in those years. So this has always been a 6-7 win team. So even as bad as Tennessee's been in the last 10 years or so, it just sort of, I can't make myself quite go there, taking Pittsburgh as a favorite on the road here. I don't trust them that much, but I certainly don't trust this Tennessee Vols team. So I just don't know what I'm getting out of this game. It's a really interesting game to sort of see where really these teams sit. Is Pittsburgh, going to be in that mid-tier 8 wins territory? Can Tennessee make that push to get to 6 wins? Because they probably have to have this game if they want to get in and around that win total. So interesting game overall. Pittsburgh at Tennessee. We'll see where that one lies. This one lost a little luster. The next one we're talking about here. I think we were a little pumped up in our preseason preview for this second week matchup. And then Tulsa, I think I sent you a text on Thursday or Friday. Tulsa, not good.
No.
Their offense was really, really bad on Thursday. They play Oklahoma State here, and it should be probably a runaway now for Oklahoma State, but that spread has not bloated as much as I thought off of the, UC Davis loss for Tulsa. Now, UC Davis is a pretty solid team, so, you take with that what you will opening night. But what do you make of this Oklahoma State-Tulsa game?
This is one Oklahoma State needs to come in and win big. What's the line? Is like 12.5 there.
Yes.
So Tulsa's still got a pretty good defense.
Yes.
But their offense is atrocious, and I don't know what they're going to be able to do against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and now that being said, Oklahoma State wasn't all that impressive the week before versus Missouri State. Their offense seems to struggle, so you might be looking at a game much like the UC Davis game that ends up 13-10, 13-7. I know that's a little bit of a change for Oklahoma State, but does seem like the spread is a little low for a team who really, really struggled at home versus UC Davis. So it should be interesting to see where Tulsa actually sits here. If they don't at least play well in this one, I don't know if I expect them to win, but play well. It's just a blowout. I think their season can drop pretty quick here. I don't think either of us were expecting that opening loss to UC Davis. So that season can unravel quick here, and see if the Oklahoma State can sort of find himself after week one. After not a great game versus Missouri State, they sort of got the job done and did what they were supposed to do. But it loses a little bit of its luster after these two week one debuts. All right, we'll go to Battle of Florida here next up, and Florida, South Florida. Florida 29-point favorites in this one. South Florida did not look all that good versus NC State. I thought, Florida looked okay. Not, I wouldn't say overly impressive in that FAU game, but they got the job done. I don't know how much they were pushing. 35-14 in that one. South Florida got manhandled 45-0 in that NC State game. So what are you expecting here? More of the same, or maybe South Florida pushes it a little?
No, I think Florida's going to try to sharpen their teeth a little bit offensively and really put up some points against South Florida. And from what they showed last week against NC State, they're not going to slow Florida down.
Yeah, I think this one's probably more of a runaway than I thought it would be. I thought South Florida might come around and have a little bit more offense than they did, but getting shut out by an NC State team who
NC State's a stout defense.
I don't think either of us were predicting an NC State to have shutouts during the year. But anyway, they shut down the Bulls. I look for Florida to do much of the same. I don't know if they can hit this number. That's a very big number.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be dependent on how much the South Florida Bulls pride is going on in the fourth quarter there. They didn't show much of any in the last game, so we'll see if it's hovering around there.
It is at home.
Yes, I will say Florida is going to South Florida, so maybe a little bit of action there, but it might be a lot of Gainesville people heading down into South Florida down there. Next up, teams who I'd say overachieved a little bit in week one. Syracuse put it on Ohio. Rutgers really put it on Temple. I think we were both leaning on Temple a little bit there. And then that
Temple is bad.
Yeah, Temple is bad, I think is what we have to put with that one. So Rutgers goes to Syracuse, 2.5 points in that one. What do you make of this one?
Do you think this is another one your boy Dino needs to win to keep his job?
It would help. Home games.
He got a good win last week.
Winning home games is always important. I was impressed. The offense came around 29-9. I think the defense is going to be solid for Syracuse. I wouldn't say great, but solid enough. If they can find enough offense to get into that, 28 to 35 point mark, I think they can get to a bowl game. It's if they can find that offense.
That's going to be tough to do against this Rutgers defense.
Meanwhile, Rutgers just put it on.
And they're just going to run the ball.
Temple 61-14. I don't know if that offense is sustainable throughout the year. I'm sure Greg is just going to pound the ball, and they can get up like they do. They can continue to pound the ball. At some point, I'm assuming they will be behind in a game, and then we'll see really where they sit overall. But it's an interesting one here. The number sits pretty low too at 51.5. So what are you making of Rutgers Syracuse on this?
I'm leaning Rutgers here. I think their offense is clicking really good, and I think they're gonna slow the game down, run the ball, pound the rock, and Syracuse might have a little trouble with it.
Yeah. You think this Rutgers team might push for a bowl after watching that week one game?
Yeah, I think Shiana's turning it around up there.
Yeah, I definitely think it is. This one's a little bit of an interesting one. I kind of like this one. I
looked at this one for a long time.
Toledo at Notre Dame. I know on paper it might not look all that great, but Toledo has always been a really, really good, MAC team. I don't think they have the big wins that some of the other sort of small schools have gone out and gotten, but they have a chance going to Notre Dame here. Notre Dame coming off a Monday game, short week. That might factor in a little bit. I think they have a couple injuries as well. So a
tough game too.
Yeah, gonna blow out, gonna miss some games here. So interesting here. Toledo 16.5 point dogs. What do you make of this game?
I love this Toledo team from all my action that I watch, but Toledo's offense is really good. Notre Dame's defense, they proved that they can force turnovers, but they were still gashed quite a bit by Florida State.
Yeah.
So Toledo's talent's not on the level Florida State has. So Notre Dame being at home, you'd think would slow down Toledo, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Toledo put some points up.
No, and I might have a play on this game in our picks. Now, I do think Toledo can hang with them, but I worry about late. Notre Dame's sort of athletes and physical ability starts to wear Toledo down. But I do think this could be a good game. And then, if this thing gets closer and closer as the game gets later, pressure Florida starts to push on to Notre Dame. But it's hard to get a real gauge on Notre Dame too, because they dominated, that Florida State game. And then in that fourth quarter, they totally fell apart and just had to win with a field goal there in overtime. So good little test here, see where Toledo really is at, if they can be in a team that could maybe jump into that top 20, if they can pull this off, and see how Notre Dame reacts after that game last week versus Florida State. All right, next up, really fun one. I don't know if there'll be many points scored in this one as well. UAB versus the Georgia Bulldogs. I think this is going to be a much more interesting game. There we go.
Is there going to be any offense?
I don't know if there's going to be any offense. I know there's going to be defense, but overall, I think this is a really good matchup. Bill Lee always has his guys ready. Their defense is really, it's not like a small school defense. It's, a top tier defense that will easily finish in the probably top 25, of defenses overall, and probably even better than that. They just shut down Jacksonville State. They couldn't even move a yard last week. Georgia, was all over Clemson. So what do you make of this matchup?
Well, they couldn't move the ball against Clemson either. So now I'm not saying UAB's defense is Clemson.
We are also getting, JT Daniels is injured reports, all of a sudden. So magically he was injured in the Clemson game, and that's why he played so bad. It took one game for excuses to start flowing out of that one.
I think with the way Georgia's offense performed in UAB's defense, that 24.5 is awfully tempting.
Yes, it does look a little tempting. The only thing I worry about a little bit is Billy tends to, let these games go by. These are games for his school to, collect a nice paycheck. His job is to win, the conference that he's in. He knows this team is not going to a playoff spot or even a BCS or whatever we call it. What are they now? A BCS bowl, the fancy bowls that are not equated to the playoffs. So, wins his conference, gets a bowl game, and gets money from Georgia to go play them.
Yep.
So I do worry a little bit there that maybe, he pulls his guys back so they don't get hurt for upcoming games that are more important to UAB's season. But defensively, I definitely think they can hang with this Georgia team. Now, whether they can move the ball at all on Georgia, I don't know. But, overall, this one, 24.5 seems like a lot of points. I don't even know if we can get 24.5 points in this one. We certainly didn't last week in the Georgia Clemson game.
No.
So anyway, that over under sits at 45.5.
Well, I'd be interested to see if it was just an outlier with, maybe Clemson's defense was that good.
Yes.
Because Georgia's got a lot of weapons and talent on the offensive side of the ball.
They do in recruiting rankings. It never seems to play out of
So
the field.
we'll see if they can put some plays together.
All right. We'll move on to another SEC matchup here. Texas A&M and Colorado. Texas A&M had a pretty easy win last week. Colorado looked all right. What do you make of this game here, this matchup? You think Texas A&M goes in there, blows them out, or do you think Colorado has a little life here and can hang with them?
I think A&M's going to blow them
Yeah.
out. I think the biggest challenge is maybe, but I mean, this early in the season, that road trip's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But I think this is another chance for you, A&M, to just keep the momentum. I don't know about 17. That's awfully large, but I think they're a much better team than this.
Yeah, that was the only thing. I thought 17 was a little bit much, especially going into Boulder this early in the season. I don't know where their fitness is. I'm sure they will wear down, late in that fourth quarter. So, and they might just pack it in if they get up, pretty big. So I'm curious to see how Colorado matches up here, and to see if they can hang with Texas A&M and put themselves into, position in that Pac-12 North, which I think opened up a little bit. So if you aren't Oregon, there are a lot of teams in there who can sort of maybe fight for that second spot. Maybe if things break right, that first spot there. So it'd be an interesting game to sort of measure and stick to see where Colorado really sits on the season overall. All right, next up, Buffalo versus Nebraska. 13.5 points for Nebraska. I think my first question is, can Nebraska score 13.5 points in this game?
Well, we know what Buffalo's going to do.
Yes.
They're going to come in, they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball, and then they're going to run the ball some more. And we saw that happen to Nebraska once this year. Illinois did that against them and dominated them pretty.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, I think if you gave me Nebraska, Illinois, and Buffalo, I think Buffalo might have the best players of all three teams. So
yeah, Buffalo getting 14 here is huge.
Yeah. The only thing that probably is a little, going to Nebraska is a different animal than them coming into Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how Buffalo handles that environment. Nebraska, for, as bad a football team it is, it's still a tough place to go to and win road games there. So I'm just curious if Buffalo can even maybe pull this upset off, because I really do think Buffalo probably has better overall talent than Nebraska, at least from what I've seen in the past 3 or 4 years here. So interesting game here.
Yeah.
Definitely a much bigger spread than I thought. I definitely thought this was going to be in the 8-9 sort of range when I got it. So 13. Not much respect for Buffalo here. We'll see what they can do playing sort of a big boy, but interesting overall game. I'm really, really curious about how that one breaks down. And I know you're curious
I'm
about
excited
this one.
about this one.
California and TCU. TCU 11.5 point favorites. This one should be a definite smash mouth game here.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of hard hitting here. But overall, could be an interesting game, certainly to see where TCU is, to see if they can really beat up on Cal. If they can really, put a beating on Cal, I think we probably move TCU up a couple levels here. But if this game breaks down into what a California Golden Bears game has been for, the Justin Wilcox era, and it's tight and it's close and we're, 17-14 going into the last 5 minutes of the game, you probably drop TCU a peg or two lower. But I equate this to like the prize fight. You got the young guy who's coming up and he has to beat the salty veteran who's got the elbows and the tricks. And if he can get past him, you probably start to think of him as a title challenger. If it's a close, tight-knit fight that the other guy probably deserves a decision, you probably sort of move him down a peg. But should be an interesting game overall. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think Cal actually looked pretty solid. They were great defensively against a really talented Nevada team last week. TCU, I don't think they really got much of a warm-up against Duquesne.
The Dukes. Don't hate on the Dukes. Basketball season is just around the corner. More Dukes betting is coming.
So I know many of you probably haven't even heard of that college. So this is really TCU's first real football game of the season. So I think Cal comes in with a slight advantage of having that matchup.
They've at least played a team that's on the level.
And with Justin Wilcox and the way he plays defense, I think this game could be a lot closer than people think. Now, it being at TCU concerns me a little bit. But I give Cal a chance here.
Yeah, should be a really interesting game. I'm really interested to see how this goes. The line opened at 9.5. It's jumped up to 11. So people really, really high on TCU here. So should be interesting to see how that plays out. We'll move to the second marquee game of the day, Iowa State. Really sort of a interesting tale here. Iowa looked amazing in their opener. Iowa State struggled to get by Northern Iowa. Now, I think we mentioned it on the recap show that game is commonly a pain in the butt for whichever team, Iowa or Iowa State, decides to play Northern Iowa during the opener. But anyway, you probably look at this coming in and you look at that week one, you're going all Iowa. Are you all Iowa in this one? Or are you going Cyclones talent wins out here?
I think this is a bit of an overreaction here. I think while Iowa looked good, Iowa State, they got the W. There were some guys that came in week one.
Which hasn't always happened in that.
Yeah. Game, so. Well, there was a big game last year, first game of the season. Louisiana knocked them off. But I think this Iowa State team has brought back so much talent from last year. I think they're still the team we thought they were at the beginning of the year. They got the W. I think 4.5 is a little small. I think they're more talented than Iowa. And it being at home, I lean Iowa State.
Yeah, I don't really know. I know this game's going to be close, like it's close every year. But it's hard to get a read. We've talked about Iowa State. We talked about it in our preview, how they seem to start every season slow. Mm-hmm. And once again, it looks like they continue to do that. We'll see if that carries over into this game, or they might finally start to get it rolling in week 2 instead of like week 4, which if they want to be a true sort of fringe playoff contender, as much as it's a difficult game to play an in-state rival like Northern Iowa, I mean, you got to blow that game out if you're Iowa State. They do not. Iowa, on the other hand, looked, super, super impressive. Now, I think a little bit of that was smoke as mirrors. Indiana just looked atrocious. I'm not sure.
2 pick sixes.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Indiana could have beaten with the way they played yesterday. Yeah. They would have lost to Northern Iowa. So, it's really just sort of interesting how this game comes in and how the money is going to be laid overall. The money has now all gone on Iowa's way, probably based just fully on how one looked in week 1 and the other looked in week 1. I think if Iowa State had won, 20-7 in the Northern Iowa game, I think that money would be flipped around instead of 65% of it, going on Iowa's way. So really interesting to see how this game plays out. Mm-hmm. Other than I think it probably will be close because I always think it's close. Next up, the Southwest Conference. Arkansas is playing its old school schedule. Yep. I think Rice in week 1,
yep.
Texas in week 2. I didn't love the way Arkansas looked in that Rice game. They they ended up pushing the lead, pretty big in that second half. I love the way Texas looked in that game, but Texas going to Arkansas, I do think that's a little bit of a challenge here. So what do you make of this?
This will be a really tough test for a new coach in Texas and the new quarterback in Texas. So while they look good, I think their defense impressed me more than anything last week.
Yeah.
But they're going to need an offensive performance to go in and beat Arkansas.
Yeah, definitely so. I will say I was really impressed with the defensive side of the ball versus Louisiana Lafayette. They really handled that offensive line really well from Lafayette. It was a really good offensive line. They managed to stay, mistake-free for the most part on offense. So, those were all good things. But this is where we see, can Texas be consistent? We've seen it before where they've had good games week 1 or week 2, and then, week 3, week 4, they're struggling. They're turning the ball over. Their defense is getting up big plays. Tough place to play. This is a big rivalry game from back in the day. Arkansas is going to want to win this game, probably even more so than the Rice game last week. So it'll be interesting. I just don't know quite if Arkansas has the talent to really match up in this game. I think Texas has a definite talent advantage here. It's just if they can play consistently enough to, sort of push this game over the edge. But should be an intriguing one and a fun one to pay attention to. All right, Appalachian State versus Miami of Florida. I think this game has gone the wrong way as well, based on, we talked about Iowa State in week 1, how one team looks and how the other team looks. Appy State looked great in week 1. Miami looked terrible in week 1. But Miami played Alabama in week 1. And
I thought it was the Patriots.
Yes, it might have been. But, I don't know how you can judge off that game.
No.
One, Alabama will make essentially everybody look awful every week. That's a crossover. They are the traveling road show of great college football play. They are going to beat up on everybody. So I sort of wiped that game out. The season starts now. I think Miami might have wanted to win that game, but I don't think they came into the season really thinking that game was going to be a win. And Appy State, while I like them and I do think they're a good team, and I do think they can, give some uncomfortable times, I think their offense and that quarterback play. Miami will rush this passer and be able to, really make him shaky here. And he won't be able to do the things that Alabama would do. So I thought 9.5, and I saw it was down to 8 when I got on Bet MGM. I haven't quite pulled the trigger on it, but if that thing gets in the 7s, I'm pulling the trigger on it because, overall you go talent for talent, depth and player-wise on the field. Miami's a much better team than Appy State here. Yeah. And it's in Miami.
Yeah, I think this really comes down to, like you said, protecting the quarterback for App State. If they can't protect him, he's going to get forced into mistakes, and that's going to give Miami opportunities. But just talent-wide across the board, Miami's a better team. Now, if this were in Boone, I might give App State a shot, but them traveling to Miami, Miami's looking to recover, bounce back from that Bama game. And I think they should win this one.
Yeah, I think if this number was like 12, 13, I probably wouldn't be, But now that it's under 10 and basically 1 point over a touchdown right now, I just think the overreaction to week 1 versus Alabama. I want to know what team who was going to play Alabama in week 1 was not going to get thrashed and look very, very bad.
This week 2 is a big overreaction week for a lot of people. So, takes a few weeks to get leveled out, and people are they only have 1 week to go off of. So that's if it's a loss, they're going to take a lot from that,
and especially if it's a bad loss. But I don't consider any loss, no matter how bad to Alabama, loss. That is a team full of pro football players, and the players behind them are pro football players. So just a little bit of an unfair advantage there. We'll go to week 1, looking good, looking bad once again. NC State, we talked about it a little earlier with the South Florida matchup, looked awesome. Offense flew around, defense even played actual defense. Mississippi State did not look all that great.
They barely squeaked it out.
Needed a couple late scores to get by Louisiana Tech. Now Louisiana Tech, solid team, not a great team. But anyway, what do you make of this matchup? NC State going in to Mississippi State here.
I love NC State here. I'm a big fan of Bailey Zappi. I've been big on North Carolina State since our preseason shows. And Mississippi State, I think they're just a little too inconsistent. And I think this NC State defense can force Mississippi State into some turnovers. This is a great defense NC State has, and as long as they play smart football, they should be able to go in and get the win.
Yeah, the only thing I concern myself a little bit with, NC State has struggled going on the road, and as sort of as bottom tier as Mississippi State probably will be in the SEC West, it's still a hard place to pick up, travel, and win on the road. So I'm curious to see how NC State deals with that environment on the road, and if they can be consistent and put together two really, really solid overall, we'll get it out there. Solid overall, both sides of the defense and offense. Side of the ball play in this one, or maybe mistake. They looked really, really bad by that fourth quarter. Offense started to flow a little bit, so maybe they found a little something. Maybe the offense is a little bit better to start the game than it was in the start of the game versus Louisiana Tech. So decent. Fun little matchup there to definitely pay attention to and see how that breaks down. And next up, I think this is probably the best sort of small school matchup there is this week. Really entertaining game. Liberty versus Troy. I'm really intrigued by this matchup. Troy getting 4.5 points with Liberty going there. These are two really good quarterbacks of both these schools. So it should be an entertaining game. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game. I think that 61.5 may be a little low. We'll see. But this could be one of those games where whoever has the ball last gets the W.
I'm really intrigued to see how Liberty goes in there and deals with the environment in Troy, how they do defensively versus, I think, a solid offense from Troy. I think the both defenses match up about the same. So should be a really, really fun sort of small school matchup and see how these teams play out overall. Next up, Memphis versus Arkansas State. Butch Jones got off to a pretty good start opening weekend. Memphis was so-so in a 42-17 over Nicholls State. It was not a blowout, but they got the job done. I wasn't overall impressed with Memphis here. 5.5 on the road. I'm a little shaky about just because I thought Arkansas State looked good. But what do you make of this matchup?
Well, this is a matchup that Memphis continually wins year in, year out by anywhere from 10 to 20 points. I don't think this year will be any different. They return roughly the same amount of talent from last year, and Butch Jones is still bringing his guys in. And I think Memphis overall talent-wise is the better team and should be able to take care of business.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Maybe Arkansas State a little better than we thought coming into the preseason. So this will be a really good test, especially with Memphis going there. So intriguing matchup. 5.5 points for Memphis on the road. Should be a pretty good watch too offensively, though Memphis isn't quite as explosive as they have been in the past offensively, but should be a really good game. Next up, call this the game. I have no idea what to expect out of this puppy here.
I'm curious to see this one. This is one, the Missouri Tigers, Kentucky Wildcats. The one play I thought about here was the over 56.
The over?
Because Missouri's going to score points.
Yes.
And Kentucky's trying to get to become that team where they're scoring points again. They're trying to change their identity.
Well, if they can play Law Monroe every week, I think that could occur.
They managed to get 45 last week, which is good for them. But we'll see if they can do that against SEC caliber defense.
Yes.
Missouri is probably a good one to warm up with. But Missouri is going to move the ball well, and they're going to come in here slinging it. So I think it's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah. Missouri didn't play great for Central Michigan, but that's a pretty solid Central Michigan team. I think we both think they'll probably be, contenders into that MAC. So I don't take too much away from that game, even though it was probably a little closer than some people thought. I don't think we thought it was going to be a blowout.
No.
Missouri got the job done at home. Kentucky played La Monroe, a really, really bad team. Blew them out, did what they were supposed to, probably scored a couple more points than we thought they would. So I'm just really intrigued to see if this Kentucky offense actually can physically throw the ball and run, a real sort of offensive scheme, or once they play competition that's more along their standing, they go back and revert back into their running style of play to see what Missouri's defense and offense can do. Can Missouri's offense, puncture a really good defense in Kentucky? Can their defense stop anybody with a pulse? They did struggle a little bit stopping Central Michigan, but we mentioned Central Michigan, pretty good offense.
Yep.
So, interesting game. I didn't know what to do with it spread wise at all. So I just couldn't wrap my head around whether I really like Kentucky as a 5-point favorite at home, or I don't think I trusted Missouri to really cover anything. I could see Missouri either winning by 14 or losing by 30. So that's never a great place to be in. Speaking of games that have lost its luster, sadly, I think this one was, everybody was hyped in prime time, ABC, 8 p.m. We're going to get the big matchup, and then Washington dropped the dud to Montana. Sadly, they can't move it off prime time, but
you had Washington on the over win total, didn't you?
Yeah.
You were big on Washington.
I don't know if I had them on the over win total. I think, oh no, I did, because it was 8.5, I believe. So we can still get there. I wasn't expecting the Montana loss. I thought the offense, while I knew it would be poor, would not be so poor that they could manage 14 points versus Montana team. But I did think Washington defense played really well in that game. And that's, I think, where this matchup sort of is intriguing. I do think Washington defense really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan's offense, they found their quarterback in their big win last week. I think we'll see if they actually found their quarterback this week. I just worry if Washington can score any points, going on the road in Michigan here. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think this is another case of a team looking ahead past their week 1 matchup. I think they thought they could just show up without a game plan, do vanilla offense, and take care of Montana, move on to Michigan. And that wasn't the case. They need to show up every week. And so I don't want to give that, too big of a reaction and just go heavily on Michigan here. That was my initial instinct, but I just look at the talent. This Washington team is talented and they can play really good defense. And Michigan struggles against teams that can play defense.
Yeah.
Especially this hardball.
I don't totally trust that they found their quarterback just because somebody got carved up Western Michigan. I think we'll find out once the MAC games start. Lots of teams will carve up Western Michigan. Yeah. So not all that impressive. If they carve up Washington, then I'll be a little more impressed. Maybe Michigan could go to the MAC. Well, I don't know if they can handle Toledo in that. So we'll see. This game did lose a little bit of its fun.
Yeah. I do like getting a touchdown here.
But I think the +7 pretty intriguing here. So should still be an interesting game to see.
I think it's going to be an ugly game.
How it plays out. Well, I don't think Washington plays anything but ugly games anymore. So Chris Peterson is gone, and Myles Gaskin is toting carries for Miami, and I don't know where Jake Browning is. I do know Jacob Eason, sadly, might be taking snaps for the Colts. So I apologize for their fans. That one might be a rough watch, but this one might be a rough watch as well. But
I don't recommend this one.
I do recommend watching this one.
I'm not staying up till 1 a.m.
You are staying up. The iPad is coming in, and we are watching this showdown here. Vanderbilt versus Colorado State. Speaking of bad starts to the season, Colorado State was massacred by South Dakota State. Now, very good team, South Dakota State. Definitely, probably actually better than both Vanderbilt, and clearly better than Colorado State. But Vandy won up them and didn't get murdered, but was not really in the game versus East Tennessee, who we mentioned has not even had a football program all that long. So what do you make of this matchup? Vandy traveling to Colorado State.
I honestly don't know. I think 7's a lot.
That was my only take. How can a team who just lost by 20 points to a subdivision team at home, mind you, be a 7-point favorite in the exact same place?
I mean, they both lost. Vanderbilt's loss was probably a little uglier, but still, I don't think you make Colorado State a 7-point favorite because of that. this is really more of a pick 'em in my opinion. So I would take the points every time.
Yeah, this is not going to be pretty, but I was just intrigued. Really, two really bad teams, and someone's going to have a really, really bad start to the season and might pack it in pretty early in week 2 here if back-to-back losses occur for one of these teams here.
They're going to be both looking forward to basketball.
Well, Vanderbilt might. I don't know if CSU will or not. Next up, San Diego State goes to Arizona. This one I was a little intrigued by just because Arizona is favored in this game. I did not think they looked great in the BYU game. They could not score points. San Diego State took care of business pretty easy versus New Mexico State. Is Arizona that much more talented than San Diego State here? Or did I miss something and Tucson became a palace of torture to go to all of a sudden?
I don't think so. And I was actually surprised when you told me this line was 2 points in favor of San Diego State. I don't understand how a team that won coming into a team that lost, that nobody was really big on to begin the season at all anyway, is a 2-point favorite. So.
Especially a team where I think we both respect the defense. It's a legit defense who can match up with pretty much anyway, certainly with the talent of Arizona. So I just didn't quite totally understand this line, quite so much. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing the, Tucson Palace down in Arizona, all of a sudden becoming a huge home field advantage. If they can put 10,000 people in the stands, I'd be more amazed than if this actually turns into anything. But I'm just curious to see how this game unfolds now, because I disagree with the odds makers on this one a little bit. All right. We're going to the Holy War here. I don't know if we're allowed to call it that anymore, but anyway, Utah BYU. This is always not the most entertaining game to watch eye-wise, but it's always a fun one to watch. It's always close. It's always, a little chippy, or a lot chippy for that matter. But Utah goes in there as 7-point favorites. What do you make of this one? That's a big spread to go into a game where I don't think the margin of victory has been, more than a 3-point margin of victory on either side of things.
This is a game where I'm just going to watch and learn about each one of these teams. I'm staying away from it. I have no read on what's going to happen. Utah could come in and win it big. They could come in and not even show up. There's really no telling. And I just really want to see the true identity of both of these teams. And I think the competition will bring it out in this game, but it's just too early in the year, not enough knowns about these teams for me to make a play on this game.
I couldn't gauge enough off BYU's win versus Arizona. They didn't look great, but they were basically in control the whole game. So what do you make of that? They, didn't really put a ton on the offense, but they're bringing in a lot of new players on offense, so they might not want to push it. The only way basically they can lose that game is if they gave Arizona turnovers. So, they, channeled it back a little bit there. BYU's defense looked good. We know Utah's defense is going to be good. So just a big line, and I'm not touching Utah, 7-point favorites.
Coming into this year, I was a big fan of Utah, but really didn't know a whole lot about BYU, and just 7 points is way too much.
We'll know more after this one, for sure. And lastly, touch on Stanford USC. USC looked pretty solid opening weekend. Stanford looked pretty bad. I do think this line's a little bloated just based off how each team looked. Stanford back in the comfort zone playing in the Pac-12 here. I don't think they'll fear going to USC, but USC's talent might just be too much here, even with a 17-point spread. What do you make of this one?
Well, I heard an interesting stat today. Let me see if I can say it correctly. In the last 10 years, not that long, maybe it was just the last couple of years. Anyway, something like along the stats of a team that lost opening conference game, that went on the road in their next conference game, won against the spread 70% of the time.
Well, I think that means
so Stanford's going on the road after losing the opening conference game to USC. Maybe Stanford plus 17 is the play here.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll see if you have that in your picks. And speaking of picks, I think it's time to get to our picks. So I got 17 picks for us today. Big slate.
I
I'm going all over the board today.
Yeah, I started really slow on these picks, and then just one by one, they kept falling in my lap like, oh, I got to take that. So I've got 14 this week. So with a lot of action.
A whole lot of action. It's only Thursday. By Saturday on Winning Daily, which you can watch if you like and subscribe to us. It'll pop right up there. You can watch it. I might have even more than 17 picks. Might have some less too. You never know how the spreads will flow. But anyway, I guess I'll kick things off and I'll go to that Tennessee-Pittsburgh game, and I'm going under the 56 and a half here. I just, one, I don't think Tennessee can get anywhere near about 20 points, which is probably what they need to hit this over. And I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is quite good enough to get anywhere around that. I just think this will be a really low scoring game played into the high teens, maybe into the 20s if, both quarterbacks make a lot of mistakes and give bad field position. But 56 and a half seems like a lot of points for teams with a whole lot of
It's still a lot of trust in Josh Heupel's offense there. So
I think it's a lot of trust in Joe Milton's arm, which I don't think any of us walked away with totally flattered.
Maybe they were disguising it.
Disguising it. They aren't good enough to be disguising things. So Tennessee versus Pittsburgh under 56 and a half is my first pick of the day. What do you got up for us?
We're going to go to my favorite team for my first pick. One I'm going to be betting on a lot this year, I think, as long as they keep playing this way.
Well, if they keep winning 45-0, I think the spreads are going to jump up a little bit.
I'm taking NC State -3 at Mississippi State. Now, I got this at -3. I think it's at -1 now. So money's coming in on Mississippi State, but I think NC State's the better team here. They're going to force Mississippi State into some mistakes, and they're going to take the win.
All right. Riding the wolf pack guy. He's becoming a wolf pack kind of guy. We might see him in the red and black
maybe
too long.
If they make me money.
If they make you money. We'll see this week. We might hate the wolf pack guy in another week. Anyway, next up for me, staying in the SEC, and I'm riding that South Carolina -2 versus East Carolina. I think the South Carolina team might be a little bit better than we thought. I didn't love what I saw from East Carolina, so we'll see if South Carolina can put 2 games in a row here and play well. Really low spread, so I really like that. So South Carolina -2 for me is my second pick of the day.
Okay, we're going to go back to one we talked about at the beginning of the show. I've taken Virginia -10 at versus Illinois. They're at home. I like Brennan Armstrong. I think this offense is going to click really well against Illinois, and they're going to bury this team.
Yeah, I like that pick. Good pick. I think the chance for a blowout on Virginia's side is pretty high there. So that 10 pretty good. All right, next up, Northern Illinois. I'm riding the Huskies. I think they are a great team. No, I don't think they're a great team, but I was highly disturbed by the way Wyoming's offense looked last week in their game. And going to Northern Illinois -7, I don't know if Wyoming is capable of winning games by that many points.
Well, since we're there, I'm going to go ahead and drop that. I've got Wyoming -6.5.
We're in a battle this week.
At
Money is
Northern
on the
Illinois.
line.
So
one of us is going to be happy. One of us is going to be sad. I'm taking the week 1 overreaction. You're taking the week 1 underreaction here.
Wyoming's the better team by far.
I think Wyoming's defense is a better team. I don't know about the offensive side of things. I think they might let you walk on there and run around or to a receiver. They might already be doing that, which possibly is the issue for them. But yeah, I have Northern Illinois +7. You have Wyoming -7. Then we'll probably end up with a push.
I managed to get 6.5.
You missed. So no push for us. I was going to say we're going to get the push and both be unhappy. All right. Since you did that pick, I'm going next up. I'm going to ride Virginia Tech 20.5 versus MTSU. MTSU always struggles in these games when they have to step up. I like the way Virginia Tech defense looked in that North Carolina game. I think their offense gets a little bit rolling here, and I just don't trust MTSU to be able to hang here. So, yeah, it's a real big spread, but I think Virginia Tech wins this one pretty easy. So
Virginia Tech really impressed last week. So
Virginia Tech -20.5. I think that's my only real big favorite I took this week when there are a lot of games with a lot of large spreads in here. Cupcake week, I think it is in week 2 here. So what do you got next?
So next up, I another one of my favorite bets this week. I know you're not too big on it, but I really like Western Kentucky +7 at Army. I'm really big.
You're really digging the red teams this year.
No, I'm digging these overreactions. Army is not that great. I think they played a Georgia State team that was not as good as we thought they were. They had half their team out for COVID. And I think Western Kentucky has a much better offense than Georgia State. They're going to sling the ball over. They're really going to test this Army defense. And I'm just a big fan of Western Kentucky.
All right. So the Hilltopper Wolfpack lover over here.
I may have some parlays with the money line on that and getting some value there too. So really want Western Kentucky gets that win. I'm going to have a really good day.
Yeah, I think you are. So we'll see how.
But I'm taking +7 on our pick show here.
No, you have the money line. Your record is dependent on the money line on that one. +7 on the Western Kentucky. Dynamite David, big on the NC State, big on the Western Kentucky to start the year. All right, I mentioned the Toledo Notre Dame game. I'm taking Toledo +10 in the first half of the game.
That's solid.
I think Toledo can hang with them at least for the half. Probably start to wear down in the second half. I didn't love that 17 because I thought maybe a couple late touchdowns might push that over, especially if Toledo sort of just packs it in there in the fourth quarter once the game gets out of hand. But I think they can keep this close for a half. So getting 10 points, I think, is pretty good value there, especially if Notre Dame starts slow because they've had a short week. So Toledo +10 in the first half for me.
I'm going to go to another 7-point dog. I'm taking Washington going in the big house. I think they can hang. I think they're going to slow this game down. Their defense keeps them within a touchdown.
Well, we have an agreement this time because I also have Washington +7 versus Michigan. I don't trust Michigan's offense here. So I'm going to ride this Washington defense. I think this game will be close. I don't know if Washington can win it. I took a little bit of glance at the money line. I just don't know if I trust Washington's offense enough to really win this, but I think this will be a 3 to 6 point game here. So I like the value there as well with Washington +7. So what do you got next for us?
Next up, I've got Rutgers -2 going into Syracuse. I just think their offense is going to be too much for Syracuse to handle, and they're going to go in and win.
Yeah, I don't have one on that one yet, but I might be laying low. Pay attention. Saturday, Syracuse might squeeze their way in there.
Big Dino fan.
Big Dino fan, but I'm a Schiano. I don't know if I'm a fan. I just think he can win football games. I don't think anybody's a Schiano fan. I don't think you can be a Schiano fan, but he does win football games and is the only person who ever has managed to win football games at Rutgers. So anyway, my next up, I think you're going to be big on this one as well. I have Air Force -7 versus Navy. I talked to you a little bit about it earlier in the day, and I was like, I think this game is always close. I've looked the last couple of years. Air Force has beaten them up pretty good the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say about this, they have struggled a little bit going to Annapolis, but a lot of those games have been played at noon. This one's being played at 3:30. So I don't think that time differential will be quite as much of a factor. And the game last year played in Air Force was 48-7. So I just think Air Force is the better team here. So I did end up seeing value in that 7-point spread there, especially with a game at 3:30. So we don't get the, weird, noontime Air Force Academy or not. It still messes with your body if you're going from the western side to the eastern side and playing, a noon game out there. So really like that Air Force -7.
Yeah, I've got this as well. I got a little earlier than you because I've got Air Force -5.5.
Oh, that's a nice.
But Air Force, I think, is the best military academy this year in football, and Navy is quite possibly the worst. So I like Air Force to go in, take care of business.
Yeah, I think that will happen. The only worry would be they've struggled a little bit going to Annapolis, but Navy's had good teams. It's only been
a very bad Navy team.
It's only been the last 2 years where they've really fallen off. So Air Force -7 for both of us. You gave yours. I'm going for the next one, and I'm going to do a twofer on this one. Okay. You're going to like this one. UMass +37.5.
Despite all the advice you've given me against taking UMass and big lines.
UMass +37.5 versus Boston College, and the under 58 here. So I think UMass offense is a little perky. That quarterback, Not too bad.
You're not listening to your own advice.
Now I'm listening to my advice. This UMass team is frisky, I tell you. I believe they might have covered this line. What was it, 54-14? No, they didn't cover the line, but it was close. Boston College did put a lot of points last week. I'm thinking a little bit of a regression here. I think UMass will slow this game down a little bit. I think it'll hit that under number. I think we're looking more in the 40-14 type of thing. So I think this number is a little high. So we're going to ride UMass plus the 37.5 and the under 58. A twofer in that game. I'll be tuned in, baby. UMass BC. Nothing like a Northeastern battle to kick things off on college football Saturday. What do you got for us?
This one, the spread was just too big for me to pass up. I'm taking Oregon plus 14.5 at Ohio State. I just think Oregon's a good enough team to stay within the 2 touchdowns. Pretty solid defensively. We'll see if Thibodeau gets to play or not, but I really like this Oregon team.
Yeah, I didn't quite pull the trigger. I was going to wait and see. I was sort of hoping that line would jump up a little bit. Maybe I could get it more 15-16 by game time as more and more money rolled in on Ohio State. Because I think as it gets later and then probably as Thibodeau gets ruled out, money will start heading into that one. So I haven't officially gone after that one yet, but if that thing climbs up more in the 16 range, I might be jumping on that Oregon side of things. All right, next up for me, I really like this line. This is one of my favorite ones of the week. Georgia Southern was getting 7.5 versus FAU. I really, really like this one. So I'm going Georgia Southern to play FAU here. And I just think Georgia Southern is a better team here. Also, there's a nice little money line on that one as well. So
okay,
Georgia Southern plus 7.5 versus FAU here. I think that value really, really is good. I don't think FAU is a really, really good team this year. So plus 230 was the money line. I might sprinkle a little on that, but that 7.5 just seemed like too much for me. So Georgia Southern plus 7.5.
All right, next up, I got San Diego State at Arizona. We talked about how we were surprised by that line. I like getting to at Arizona for sure.
Yes. I have not put that one on my list yet. I was going to wait and see how the line moved. I'm a little just curious about it because I don't know why it is.
Does somebody know something?
Yes, that's what I just want to see where the money is going and why it is what it is. But Saturday, once again, tune in. That one probably will make the list. I'm just waiting and seeing why that's climbing or doing what it's doing and why everybody all of a sudden loves Arizona. I don't know if Nick Foles has returned, but by the way, he wasn't even that good there. So I think I still would take San Diego State. So anyway, just waiting and seeing on that one, but that one might be in the list later on. But I got Buffalo plus 14 versus Nebraska here.
Yep.
I just think that spread's too big. I don't know if I take it, but that money line sits at 4-1. That's intriguing because I do think Buffalo might have the better talent here. So Buffalo plus 14, money line, nice little 4-1. So I really like that value there, but I do like that spread a whole lot.
Yeah, I've also got Buffalo plus 14, and I think I have that money line in another free-play parlay. But I like Buffalo plus 14, so that's another one of my picks as well.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll probably do battle in this next one. I have Iowa plus 4.5 versus Iowa State here.
Overreaction.
It's really not for any purposes other than I think this is going to be a 3-point game and the line is 4.5. So I just think the values for the team that's getting plus, I think Iowa State might pull this one out, but I think the line's too high. This should probably be hovering around 2 points and just see who wins it. So I'm going to take Iowa plus the 4.5.
I'm taking Iowa State minus 4.5.
We're battling again.
Yep.
Couple battles this week. That should be fun. We can't push on this one either. So one of us will be unhappy.
Yep.
One of us will be happy. So I got Iowa plus a 4.5. You have Iowa minus a 4.5. Next up for me, we're going back to the Southwest Conference here. Rice plus 7.5 versus Houston. This is possibly a spike bet.
We are down on Houston now.
I am now very upset with Houston. So I don't know if this is a great bet. I don't think Houston's very good. They went scoreless in that second half. I'm not sure how good Texas Tech is. Maybe Texas Tech is much better than I thought, but I'm really down on Houston here. I was a little bit impressed with Rice. I thought they were a little spunky
they
at
hung with
Arkansas. And I'm almost in the feeling that this Houston team's just going to pack it in, and Holgerson's going to be out of here. I looked at the money line a little bit here too, plus 260. That might work their way in there, but Rice plus 7.5 is my next one on this sheet. So what do you got next?
Next up, I got Cal going into TCU.
Oh my!
Plus 11.5. I just think that spread's a little too big for their defense, and they're going to hang with TCU.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I'm a watcher on that one. I'm a watcher on
You're
that.
just no.
I'm a watcher. That might get some in-game action if it starts off like 0-0 for the first 2 quarters. Then I can grab like TCU even money by the second half. But yeah, I'm a no-go on that one. My next one, we talked about a little bit. Troy plus 4.5 versus Liberty. I also got the under 61.5. So another combo package on that one. Troy plus 4.5, Liberty under 61.5. I just think this game's going to be interesting. I think Troy might be a little bit better than what people think. I think Liberty might be a little worse than people think. They have that really good quarterback who's theoretically a NFL draft prospect. We'll see if that, but I don't think they have the depth that they had the last couple of years. And I think Troy might be a little bit of the better team.
Yep.
And I think this might go under just because if I think Troy's going to do it, they're going to do it by grinding this game away. It's not going to be a shootout. So if they're getting in a shootout, Liberty's going to win this game, and the under will hit. So I got a combo package, Troy plus 4.5, under 61.5 for that game. What do you got next?
I got an underplay on this next one. I'm taking the Purdue at Uconn under 58.5. Purdue may score 50 points here.
UConn?
No love for UConn at all. They're the coachless, dwindling, soon to be non-existent program that is UConn. They may score a touchdown. Purdue's going to dominate this game, but I don't think they score enough to cover and get over that 58.5. So I'm taking the under there.
Yeah, I'm going for an under as well. And once again, I don't quite understand why this team keeps getting high 50 unders, but New Mexico versus New Mexico State. The number sits at 56. New Mexico cannot score points.
No.
I'm not sure they're scoring points once again this week. And so I don't know if New Mexico is capable of scoring in the 40s, high 40s, which is what they will have to do to get to this number at 56. So I'm just going to keep writing this New Mexico State team's unders until they adjust and we start getting some in the 40s here. But as long as they're in the 55 and above category, I'm taking under on New Mexico State because they aren't scoring points. So under 56 for me in New Mexico State.
All right, we're on to my last pick.
Oh my, I got 1, 2, 3 more to go.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give my last one. You can rapid fire your last 3. So I'm taking Memphis minus 5.5.
2 more because I already gave you the Washington.
Oh, yeah. I'm going Memphis minus 5.5 at Arkansas State. I just think they're the more talented team, and they're going to go in and win pretty big, I think.
Yeah, I got 2 left. One is Florida International minus 1.5 versus Texas State. I know you were a little happy with this Texas State team, but I think this Florida International team's pretty good. I think Butch Davis has them playing good football. I think Texas State will struggle going there. Funny enough, they've never played each other. I looked that up today. So first time matchup, but I think Florida International is a little undervalued right now. So I'm going to ride Florida International minus the 1.5 at home versus Texas State today. And then I'm going to take the under in the North Carolina versus Georgia State.
I like that one.
Under 66. I don't know what game they were watching last week, but
North Carolina
has 0 skill position players out there, even as bad as Georgia State is. Georgia State, I don't think, is scoring points. So North Carolina is going to have to be in the high 50s there. I'm not sure North Carolina is capable of hitting the high 50s from the skill position people I saw there. So under 66, I thought was way too high. They have not adjusted to North Carolina yet. maybe by midseason they find some skill position guys, but right now, from what I saw, they couldn't do anything. And I don't think either of us think that Virginia Tech defense all of a sudden became a world beater overnight. Yeah. They were getting shredded routinely last year, and it's a lot of the same people. So North Carolina, Georgia State under 66 for me there. All right. I think that wraps up our picks.
A lot of picks.
And week 2, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our content. Don't miss Winning Daily. We got our NFL show coming up tomorrow. We'll have all our picks for the NFL as well. Winning Daily will be back with all your live action, all your picks, and all sorts of action this week. US Open closing down. That'll be a fun one to get into. And all the college football and NFL you can handle. Maybe get into some prop bets as we get into things on Winning Daily. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. That's our show, and we're out.
Greenlight Network presents Football Time.